Okay, we are connected on Facebook Live, and I'm also recording. Yes.
Okay, welcome all our viewers today once again to another session by Shri Pratik Desai ji. Pratik Desai ji needs no introduction. He's been regularly putting up his talks on various aspects of spirituality and religion. The topic for today is a very interesting topic. It is how can an immoral personality like Krishna be the supreme absolute truth? That's a very loaded topic. See, we hear very often people, we meet, any layperson, and many Hindus, in fact, they will always have this, how come Krishna did this? Why Krishna did that? Isn't that immoral? So there are so many things about Krishna which, if a person does not know Krishna well, he will have questions that how can such a person be God? So Pratik Desai ji will address this very, very interesting and loaded topic today. Over to you, Pratik ji.
Okay, so are we going to start with some questions or?
Sure, sure. Pratik ji, the most common question we hear that why Krishna never married Radha. See, Krishna and Radha are the most famous spiritual couple in Sanatan Dharma. And Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago to establish Dharma. That is also true. But then Krishna never got married to Radha. And then he had so many gopis as his associates. He did Ras Leela with so many of them. So how can we expect this to be a guiding light for the humanity at large if humans in a society are supposed to behave and conduct themselves in a certain principle with certain principles of moral ethics? Then how do we reconcile that the God of this dharma himself has a track record which seems to be in contrast to what dharma speaks for the society? So is that a good starting point?
Yeah. Thank you, Rajiv ji, for organizing this wonderful talk show as usual, and bringing up this very important topic about the establishing the authority of Krishna as the supreme Godhead. So let's start with the idea and the foundation of what is moral and what is immoral. This is very important to understand for all of us. So as I have described in my book also, because this is a frequently asked question amongst not just outside of the Hindu community, but within Hindu communities also. Many people, they doubt about the character of Krishna, and it is difficult for them to accept Krishna as the supreme God, as ISKCON claims, or some of the Vaishnava Sampradaya claims. So first of all, we need to understand what is morality. Now, morality, let's let's talk about dharma, adharma. In very common usage, it is called as dharma, adharma, and I think everyone is familiar with these words. So dharma and adharma makes sense when, and dharma basically means something that you do which is rightful, and the adharma means something that you do which is wrong in nature. So that is dharma and adharma. Everyone knows that. But now the question is that how do you define what is right, what is wrong? Because right and wrong always is a relative concept. It's a subjective concept. It is not absolute concept. So for me, what is right, it may be wrong for you, and for you, what is right, it may be wrong for me. And so there are like so many living entities in the entire universe, in the entire world. So how do we know who is right, who is wrong, what is right, what is wrong? Generally, we accept the laws which are governed, which are designed by the government of the state, state government or the country. We accept the laws because we know that if we do not follow these laws, then we will be punished for that. So it means that if you violate certain laws of the government, whichever place you are living, so it will have a society, it will have community. Because you are part of society, you're part of community, you're part of some nation, you're part of this world. So you'll have to follow certain things. It's not that whimsically you can do whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so we accept all these things. And another thing is what to speak about the man-made laws, but even the laws, the natural laws also, we have to accept it. For example, the law of gravity. So if you try to jump from a building, then you cannot think just because you believe that nothing is going to happen to me. It's not going to work like that. If you jump from a building, you will fracture your body or you will die also. So you cannot defy the laws of God or laws of nature. That we can understand clearly. And so similarly, in order to maintain law and order in the society, community, country, we have to establish certain laws. So because the problem is that we have free will, everyone has free will, and people can misuse that free will and they can commit violence in the name of free will. Because their desire, they are very greedy, they are very passionate. So they can go to any extent to fulfill their desires. And in order to curb those desires, certain tendencies, or in order to maintain such a orderly, organized system in the country, we need certain laws and we have to accept it. So everyone is accepting certain things which are imposed to us, right? It is not that we are doing what we want to do. We are always accepting certain things in our life, and that is imposed to us. Even when we were young, we did not like to study different subject matters. Like maybe some of the subjects, it may be our favorite, but apart from these subjects, we didn't like. I mean, we hated some of the subjects, right? But still, we had to force ourselves to study it so that we can pass, and then gradually we can go to higher grades. So this is a natural law system, and it is universally followed by everyone in the universe. Okay. Now the question is that what is right, what is wrong? So here we can see that if we follow the laws of government, then we'll be protected, and we'll get we'll not suffer for that. But if we break the laws, then we'll suffer for that. Now it may be possible you may be quite lucky enough to escape the laws and not be punished. That can happen in this man-made world, but it will never happen in the eyes of God. So when you break a law, in other words, when you are performing adharmic activities, you are going to get some negative reaction. And when you follow certain dharmic principles, you will get some good results. So pious activities and impious activities. And correspondingly, you get good reaction and you get bad reaction. Right? Pap and punya, like that. So this is how morality has to be defined. If the action that we are performing, if that is producing a good reaction, then we are basically dharmic in nature. Right? So it has to do with reaction also. If you are always getting good reaction for whatever you're doing, then you can say that maybe you are always dharmic. Even though, so, in a criminal society, they may also have certain laws, but they are also committing violence. But for them, violence is a very normal activity. So they are not punished for that. They may be rewarded for that, probably. So again, it's a relative concept in the material world. Okay. So the point is, coming to the conclusion, moral, dharma and adharma is decided by the accompanying reaction. And that reaction, now, as I said, that it may be subjective in this world, but in the eyes of God, He is absolute controller. So nothing can escape from the vision of the Lord. He's also residing in the heart of all the living entities as Paramatma. So He knows each and every detail, each and every second of detail of what we are doing. And He has a record of everything that we are doing. So the reaction may not come immediately to us, but it may come later. And that's why we have the concept of karma, and then we have the concept of reincarnation also. right? I mean, the reason we have reincarnation is to balance our karmas, because you may perform certain sinful activity, and that sinful activity is so grave, it is so intense, that you may have to take multiple lifetime just to bear the reaction of the sinful activity. You cannot finish it up in one lifetime. You don't deserve that. See, that's why when people commit very grievous sinful activities, then some of the people, they criticize that and they say that yaar isko to narak mein jana chahiye. He deserves to go to hell forever, and he should never be freed from hell. People say like that, right? So what it means, there are certain sinful activities which deserve this kind of punishment, multiple lifetime, not just one lifetime. You just finish it off. And anyways, what is the lifespan of one lifetime? It's hardly anything. 100 years, like. And if you perform some sinful activity in your 99th year, and and you die in your 100th year, then where is the reaction to that? So it makes sense that there is karma which is continuing in next lifetimes also, right? So this is a perfect model by the Lord, designed by the Lord, which will take care of our karmas, which will give the reaction at the appropriate timing. It may not be possible in this life, but certainly in the next life we'll get the reaction. So that law of karma is very complicated. It is ultimately arranged by the Lord. It is the Lord's desire when we get the reaction for which karma, right? But in principle, dharma and adharma means moral, immoral activity accompanies a good and bad result. Okay. Now coming to Krishna's activities. So having understood this, whenever Krishna is performing certain activities, or let's try to explain before that the nature of Krishna's personality. Okay, then we'll come to this point, his activities. So see, first of all, people, maybe most of the people, they are not aware that Krishna is, he's having a body which is Sachidananda Vigraha. The soul of Krishna and the body of Krishna is the same, unlike us. So we have a different body and our soul is also different. So the Bhagavad Gita says that the Atma changes body at the time of death, and it continues from one life to another life. So Dehinosmin yatha deve, kaumaram yovanam jaram, tatha dehartantra prapti dhiras tatra namuyati. So as the embodied soul continues from one body to another body, the soul also keeps changing bodies, right? Now, see, this gross body definitely is gone in this life. So then what is continued in the next life? What kind of impression body is continued? So inside the gross body, we have subtle body, and then subtle body, and we have the soul. So soul, the covering, the subtle covering is subtle body, and then the outside covering is a gross body that we are seeing with the material eyes. But we cannot see the subtle body. So that subtle body is made up of false ego, intelligence, and mind, intelligence, ego. That is going to carry our karmas in the next life. So that is always going to accompany the soul, the subtle body. It's a record of all our karmas, impressions. So based on that, that's why we are of a certain nature in this life, because we are from within, we get inspired to continue those tendencies. Okay, like because everyone has a different nature, and the question is that why everyone has a different nature. Okay, and that nature is coming because of our karma from previous lifetimes. So that is how we are, that is actually driving us. Okay, so Krishna's body is transcendental. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yogeti tattva deham punarjanma naiti mapeti sa Arjuna. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna clearly says that I have a transcendental body, and my activities, my janm, my karma, everything is transcendental, which means that it is not like the way we take birth in this material world, the way we are suffering, the way we have to perform karma in this material world. It is always beyond space and time. It is always beyond material gunas. So it is transcendental. Okay, so this is the nature of Krishna's body. So in the Kurma Puran also it is mentioned that Deha Dehi Vedo Ayam Nashware Vidyate Katvachit. There is no difference between body and soul in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, given the Kurma Purana. And then there are statements in the Upanishad, in the Rig Veda, which does mention Krishna's personality. If Krishna's personality were material, like us, then they would not mention it, and especially the Lord's abode. Now, we can understand to some degree that the Lord is defined and described in the scripture, but there is no logic in defining the abode of the Lord. See, when the abode of the Lord is described, like for example, the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan, what is the need of describing that? It means that Golok Vrindavan is existing, means that Krishna is also eternal. He is eternally present in Golok Vrindavan. Otherwise, what is the need of Golok Vrindavan? If Krishna has a tentative body, temporary body, then that body is going to go away. So who is going to go to Goloka? What is the reason for Goloka Vrindavan? And similarly, where are the devotees going? Why there is a description of Golok Vrindavan? So it is clearly mentioned in scriptures, in Brahma Samhita, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Upanishads, that Krishna has a transcendental body. In the Puranas, okay, so Satchidananda Vigraha body. In Brahma Samhita, it is mentioned Advaita Achyutam Anadir Adir Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam Anantam Advaita Achyutam Anadir Anantam Rupam. So Advaitam, without any duality. Achyutam, infallible. Anadir, beginningless, no time. Anantam means infinite. So this is the personality of the Lord. And he is existing eternally. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That I exist along with my fragmental part and parcels, which are the living entities, which are us. So we are all existing eternally. The soul is eternal, and Krishna is also eternal. The Lord is eternal in nature. So he has a form, he has a personality, and that's how that form and personality, they are eternal. Okay, so body and soul is eternal. So this is the first thing that we need to understand. And then Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who consider my body as temporary or material, they are muda. Avajananti ma mudam manusham tanum ashrita. Those who consider my body to be material, temporary, they are all mudas. Manusham tanum ashritam. So manushya means they think that I am an ordinary living entity. So they are all mudas. That we need to understand very clearly. So this, whatever we are going to discuss now, will be based on this principle that the Lord has us. So similarly, the avatars of Vishnu, the forms of Vishnu, they are also eternal. Narsimha, Vara, Vamana, Matsya, Kurma, they are all eternal forms of the Lord. And they have eternal spiritual bodies, right? So now we will talk about Krishna's activities. So see, whenever Krishna is performing some activity, the result of that activity, so-called immoral activity, is to ultimately benefit the devotees, right? And that we can clearly see from the description of the scriptures. So although now you did mention about Krishna's Ras Leela pastime, you did mention that Krishna never married Radharani, and there are also some other pastimes like Krishna stealing the butter, Krishna stealing the clothes of the gopis, and he made them naked in front of them. And then there is also the pastime of Krishna who is fleeing the battlefield, right? When he's shifting from Mathura to Dwarka. So before that, he is fleeing the battle. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is instructing Arjuna not to flee the battle. Right? So it seems to be contrary in Krishna's character. But we can, now I will just share the Siddhant behind the pastimes of the Lord. And then, yeah, there is also the mention of Krishna marrying so many thousands and thousands of queens, 16,188 queens and all that. So let's try to understand. See, first of all, Krishna as a spiritual body that we have already discussed. So spiritual body means he is a person, and a person, when we talk about a personality, personality has energy also along with it. Okay. So Krishna is energetic, and his energy is his Swarup Shakti or internal potency, and also called as Srimati Radharani. So these are abhinna, not separated, never separated at any point of time. So when we say that Krishna is eternal, Golok Vrindavan is eternal, and when Krishna is eternal, it also means includes Srimati Radharani, because Radharani is the energy of the Lord. So she is never separated from the Lord. When we are talking about the pastimes of Krishna marrying Radharani or not, that is, we are talking in the context of when Krishna is appearing in the material world. But originally, Krishna is always eternal. And similarly, because see, when we talk about person, then we have to talk about the Shakti also. If you remove Shakti from the personality, then it becomes Brahman. So first, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwan iti sabhyate. So Bhagwan minus Shakti, person minus Shakti becomes zero, becomes formless. Nothing is there. Okay. So Shakti is the most crucial principle to understand when we talk about Lord as a personality. So the eternal Shakti, Ladini potency of the Lord is actually none other than Srimati Radharani. So she is always existing with Krishna eternally. So where is the question of being separated from him or getting married to her? It is only from the Leela point of view. So when the Lord is coming to this material world, he performs Leela because he is performing humanly acts in this world. And in order to attract us who are struggling in this material world, so that we get attracted to his Leelas, because the Leelas, he performed these kind of Leelas because these Leelas are similar to what we are doing in this material world. So that's a way to attract us. So when Krishna comes in the material world, the gopis and Radharani. Now see, as I've already explained to you, that Radharani is eternally the potency of the Lord, right? So she also manifests. So the internal potency will manifest in the form of Srimati Radharani. And similarly, the gopis, the Vraj gopis, they are actually Kaya view expansions of Srimati Radharani's personality. So they are also expansions of the internal potency of Srimati Radharani. So actually so this is about the internal potency. So there are three energies. One is Bahiranga Shakti, one is Antaranga Shakti, and one is Tathastha Shakti. External energy, marginal energy, and internal energy. So internal energy we have already spoken about. Now external energy is the material world, which is separated from the Lord. Internal potency is always residing within the Lord. It is connected with the Lord. And separated energy is, external energy is always separated from the Lord. So external energy is the manifestation of this material world. And the middle or the marginal energy is the Jiva, the Jiv Tattva. So Jiva means we. So, and what is the identity of Jiva? These Jivas, they are all minute parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. For example, sun and sun rays. So sun is always accompanied. So sun is always accompanied with sunlight. You cannot separate sun and sunlight. If you remove sunlight, there is no point of worshipping sun. There is no point of even considering the importance of sun in our lives, right? So sun and sunlight, they are always eternal. They are together. Then we have the external energy of the Lord, which is the material manifestation, and the sun rays is equivalent to the jivas. Okay, because the sun rays, they are of the same nature of that of the sun, but they are infinitely small quantity, portions of the sun. So similarly, the jivas is also infinitely small portion of the Supreme Lord. Man made in the image of God, like that, perverted reflection. So external energy is the material world. When Krishna is coming to this material world, his Shakti is always with him, and that Shakti also manifests in the form of Radharani and gopis. So actually, basically what happens, Krishna is not performing Raslila with the wives of other women. He is performing the Raslila with his own Shaktis. Okay, and there is also a past history of these gopis. So it is mentioned in the scriptures that those who wanted to associate with Krishna in the previous lives, like for example, the Municharis, the Munis, the sages in Dandakarina forest, when they saw Lord Ramchandra, they got attracted to him. And somehow they expressed their desire to Lord Ram. But Lord Ram being one, like Ek Patni Vrata, he did not accept their desire. So he said that, but I will fulfill your desire in the next life in the form of Krishna. So these Munis, they became gopis because they wanted to have a loving relationship with the Lord. Then there are demigods, the wife of the demigods, who also desired to be gopis in Krishna's Leela. And similarly, there were associate residents of Ayodhya Vasis. They also desired to become gopis in Krishna's Leela. And the Shrutis, the Vedas, they also desired to become gopis in Krishna's Leelas. So all these past lifetimes, those who were sadhakas, they came and became gopis in the next life when Krishna appeared in this world. So Krishna is coming with his associates, which is his internal energy. And at the same time, there are certain jivas who desire to perform Raslila with the Lord, who desire to attain the Lord. So Krishna fulfills the desire of every devotee. Now, the question is that why then they get married to other men? Actually, Garg Samhita very clearly states that all these gopis, ultimately they got married to Krishna's own expansions. So there is a question of immorality. And generally, see, the scriptures also describe that when Krishna is surrounded with millions of billions of gopis, he looks like a perfect brahmachari. And he acts like a perfect brahmachari. So Krishna performing, physical relationship with the gopis increases his brahmacharya. Normally, the brahmachari is destroyed. Brahmacharya is destroyed, right? For ordinary living beings, when someone is brahmacharya means celibate. So if he associates with other women, then the brahmacharya is destroyed. But Krishna's brahmacharya actually increased. When he associates with all these gopis, his brahmacharya increases. And the gopis, they become the most chaste. Generally, the chastity is destroyed after associating with a paramour, right? But it is described in scriptures that the gopis' chastity increases. They become the most chaste women in the entire world by associating with Krishna. So by this we can clearly understand, as described, that it's all the Leela of the Lord. He is enjoying with his own associates, ultimately. And in principle, every living entity is his part and parcel. So the first proprietorship of the living entities belongs to the Lord. He is actually the husband, the mother, the father, the brother, sister of every living entity. The first and foremost, Adi Purush. So that's how he has the right to enjoy anyone. And his enjoyment is, see, when you enjoy in the material world, then someone else will suffer. Or maybe when you are enjoying, then the other person may not enjoy. But when Krishna enjoys with all his devotees, the living entities, then all the living entities, they enjoy more than Krishna. So whether it is the pastime of Makhan Chor, or whether it's the pastime of Krishna stealing the clothes of the gopis, it's all meant for enjoyment of the devotees. So the devotees are blissful. They are not complaining. They are not going to the police station and they are lodging a complaint that Krishna stole our clothes, so punish him, and they are not like sad about it. They are very blissful. They want that, they desire that. So Krishna fulfills the desire. As a loving, kind, supreme being, he wants to fulfill the desire of the living entities. He wants to give them pleasure. So he does that. Right? So these are, so particularly about the gopis pastimes, I have shared that even in the Leela of Makhan Chor, it just creates a very blissful environment in Braj. Everyone is so blissful. They are enjoying the Leelas of the Lord. Right? No one is complaining. And in fact, everyone wants that Krishna comes to their house and steal butter. They are waiting for it. So that is all described in the scriptures. So how then it can be immoral activity? See, one thing is that yada yada dharmasya glanirabhavati bharata. Krishna wants to establish dharma in this material world, but he wants to establish the supreme dharma also. And that supreme dharma is to supreme dharma is that he wants to break all these other lower dharmas. Okay. Because one thing we need to understand, the karmas and the laws, they do not apply to the Supreme Lord. He is beyond all these things. He is the creator of these things. Because he is infallible. So there is no chance of committing any mistake. He does everything perfectly. So how can any karma bind him? See, when you commit sinful activity, you are bounded to certain karma. And when you commit pious activity, you also get some karma. But if the absolute truth is the designer of these karmas, he is the giver of reaction of these karmas, and he does not perform any activity which is with fault, by mistake. He does not have any faults. He is infallible. So then how can he get karma? How can he incur karma? So that's why in the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna very clearly states, Name karmana limpati, that no karma can touch me. Correct? In fact, there is a wonderful verse in the Shastra, and it says like this, and it is from the Padma Puran. So, Tatraiva Shri Bhagavad Vakyam, Man nimittam kritam papam api dharmaya kalpate, mam anadita dharmo api papam sanmat prabhavata. In the Padma Puran, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, if one sins for my sake, his sins become pious deeds. If one refuses to worship me, then by my power, his pious deeds becomes sins. Okay. And another wonderful verse from the Padma Puran. Yatha Padme Arir Mitram Visham Patyam Adharmo Dharmatam Vrajet Suprasanne Rishikesha Vipartite Viparyaya. In the Padma Puran, it is stated, when Lord Krishna is pleased, enemies can become friends, poison can become healthy food, and sin can become saintliness. Everything can become its opposite. So why? Because he is the giver of karma. He is the absolute controller. We are not the controllers. If we desire that we don't get a reaction for a particular activity, it's beyond our control. We'll get the reaction for that. But he is the one who is giving reaction. So there is no question of his performing any immoral activity. So this is what he wants to establish also by performing so-called apparent immoral activity of this world. He wants to establish the fact that these activities, they all neutralize in the personality of the Lord. When he performs activities, then sin can become pious, and pious activity can become sin. And poison can become the most healthiest food, and the most healthiest food can become poison. So if you please Krishna, then everything will change. But if you displease Krishna, then no matter what you do, no matter what treatment, what doctor, whatever you do, it can become the poisonous thing. So in the Bhagavad Gita also it is mentioned, no, that this process of Bhakti Marg, it is like poison in the beginning, but ends up in nectar. And if you do not follow Bhakti, if you do not connect to the Lord, then it is nectar in the beginning, but it will end up in poison. So I hope And now, yeah, one more thing you asked, so I will answer that, and then later on, if you have any further questions, you can ask. So you also mentioned about the pastime of Krishna leaving the battlefield and marrying 16,808 wives, and then he also made Yudhishthir Maharaj speak lie, and then he also was very diplomatic in Mahabharata. So let's come to the point of running from the battlefield. So see, first of all, one needs to understand very clearly that if you are accepting that Krishna fled the battlefield, but then you see the history also. So after defeating Jarasandha for 17 times, Krishna could have immediately destroyed him and killed him in the single fight, the first time itself. Because Balram was about to kill him, but Krishna said, no, leave him. Because he knew that he's going to gather all the asuras of different parts of the world, and then they will all assemble one together. And then it will be very easy for Krishna to destroy all of them instead of destroying one asura after another in different places and different times. So this was his plan. So he wanted to make sure that Jarasandha is left alone, and then he will get back. He will take revenge. So he will get all the asuras. So this is one of the reasons. And so we have to understand that Krishna defeated Jarasandha so many times. Then he made this entire arrangement because he was thinking that he wants to protect Braj, the inhabitants of Braj. Okay, somehow he wants to protect them, because if Mathura is very close to Vrindavan, and if Jarasandha keeps coming there, and if he gets to know that Nand Maharaj and Yashoda Maiya, they are the foster parents of Krishna, then they will start bothering the Brajvasis. So he was very concerned about that, and that's why he immediately shifted all the Mathura Vasis to Dwarka. Okay, so it is not possible that the Lord is afraid of anything, because he is present in the heart of all the living entities as Paramatma. If he wants, he can just come out of the body and the body will immediately die. So for him, it's a matter of few moments, milliseconds, to make someone die immediately. And he can do it for any so-called demon or asura. Okay, but this is just a pastime. He likes to call himself as Ranchor, because he just thought that there is some fun in that. So he arranged this kind of pastime where he fled. Right? But you see, after fleeing, he also made arrangements to kill all the asuras throughout the different parts of the universe. It was not that he became a coward boy again. In fact, the entire purpose was to settle in Dwarka and act like a Kshatriya. So being a Kshatriya, he killed all the demons. And he also made arrangement so that Jarasandha could be killed by, ultimately he could be killed by Bhim. Okay, because he had a benediction, and Krishna protects the benediction of everyone, in spite of being a demon or a devotee, because that benediction has been given by Lord Shiva or Brahma. So he will protect that. Otherwise, he could have destroyed him immediately without any effort. So these are all the pastimes of the Lord, and it only creates a lot of bliss, a lot of suspense, a lot of interest, like in his leelas. So that's why he actually fled the battle. But if you see his overall life, then he was, and then in Mahabharata also. So he spoke the lie because he also wanted to establish that if someone is breaking dharma, then in order to protect dharma, and if that person is more stronger, and by allowing him to overcome dharma, overrule dharma, and if he becomes the king, then he will harass so many millions of people, millions of citizens. So it is better to counteract. If dharma cannot counteract adharma, because adharma is very strong, then dharma can take the help of adharma also to again defeat adharma. That also becomes moral activity. So when Krishna is asking Yudhishthir Maharaj to lie, now Yudhishthir Maharaj being the personification of dharma, he thought that it is wrong to lie like that. But Krishna wanted to establish a higher principle. He said that ultimately, as in the Padma Puran verse, it is mentioned, no, that if someone pleases me, then that becomes dharma. So so-called adharma becomes dharma, and dharma becomes adharma if one does not please me. Right? So this is what he wanted to highlight here, that everyone's ultimate role, responsibility, dharma, is to follow my instruction, follow my path. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo. Aham tva sarva papebhyo. See, he can only make this claim because he knows that he is a controller. So he can destroy, he can remove the reactions to sinful activities. No other person can make this claim. So this is the difference between us and Krishna, right? So Yudhishthir, and now see what happened. Yudhishthir Maharaj thought that he is dharma personified. So because he did not obey Krishna completely, he had to see hell for a few moments. Okay. So see, generally if someone performs dharma, then he attains Swarga. Pious activity, you attain Swarga, you attain good results. But here he actually got the reverse result. He had to go to hell for a certain time, just because he did not follow Krishna completely. Right? So this is what Krishna is wanted to establish, that whatever he says, whatever he does is dharma ultimately, and that has to be followed at all time, place, circumstances. Yeah.
Thank you, Prateekji, for that very elaborate piece on this topic. Also, people ask,
by the way, the 16,108 wives, they were also expansions of these gopis in Vrindavan. So they had all expanded themselves in Dwarka. So these are all again Krishna's own internal potency. And again, some of them were like coming from previous lives. They desired Krishna to be their husband.
Okay.
Like that.
So then there is also this query that people generally tend to have about, aren't all gods equal? Isn't it selfless? Isn't selfless worship of other gods the same as that of Krishna?
Yeah. So it's an important question. Now the question is that, okay, why is Krishna the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So there are so many other gods, so many other Vishnu forms, but why only Krishna? Why do ISKCON people, they say that only Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Okay. So at least one thing is cleared. I hope that the conception of Krishna being immoral, that is probably gone now. So let us establish how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why do we call Krishna Supreme Personality? See, there are different forms of the Lord. There is, so let us categorize them, because not everyone is in the category of the absolute controller or Ishvara, right? So there is the Ishwar Tattva, then there is the Jiv Tattva, and in between that is there is Shiv Tattva. So now how do we define these things? So the Supreme Lord has unlimited qualities. He's infinite in everything, in all opulences. So he has got unlimited qualities, but out of these unlimited qualities, 64 are the most prominent ones. And these 64, they are only displayed, they are only manifested in the personality of Krishna. Then after Krishna, now Krishna, this is in the category of Ishwar. So Ishwar is one who is the controller. And so Krishna is one who is manifesting 64 qualities. Then comes Lord Vishnu. So Vishnu manifests only 60 qualities compared to Krishna's 64. And then Lord Shiva, he will manifest only 55 qualities. And finally, the Jiva, the Jiv Tattva. The Jiv Tattva manifests only 50 qualities. So Brahma is a Jiv Tattva. Now we are also Jivas. So we can also manifest these 50 qualities, but not infinitely, not in terms of quantity. In terms of capacity, it is minute. Like, as I said, the sun and the sun rays. So like the sun ray. So we also display these 50 qualities, and Brahma is also in the category of that. Brahma, Indra, Chandra, Vayu, these are all designations. These are all posts in the material world. Just for example, there is the managing director, the CEO. It is not necessary that the same person eternally continues to be the CEO of a company. He is always replaced by someone else with time, right? So that's our designation. So similarly, Brahma is a designation. Indra is a designation. Vayu, Chandra, Surya, these are all designations. And different personalities that, depending on their karma, they take these different roles. So one thing is very clear from this, that Brahma and all these other demigods, they die, because someone else will come and take that position. So if someone is dying and is temporary, so there is out of question of saying that they are supreme. Correct? So it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam and other scriptures also that Brahma's life is 100 years. And what is that life duration of 100 years? Come in our perception, in the world that we are living. So 1 day of Brahma, just the 12 hours of Brahma, is equivalent to 1,000 cycles of Divya Yugas. So one Divya Yuga is Satyug, Trita, Dwapar, and Kalyug. Combine all these four, that becomes one Divya Yuga. And then you multiply that one Divya Yuga by 1,000 times. That is just 12 hours of Brahma. And then you have 12 hours of his night. So that 24 hours of 1 day of Brahma, that is the time duration. So just imagine what will be the, this is just 1 day. So like that, 30 days, 1 year, 100 years, like that. So at the end of 100 years, Brahma will die. Okay, this is the lifespan of Brahma. What is the lifespan of all these demigods? Indra, Chandra, Vayu, and all these other demigods. It is equivalent to the lifespan of one Manvantar, one Manu. So in the 100 years of Brahma, there are 14 Manus who appear. Manus are the father of mankind, and generally they are the kings, they are the rulers. So one Manu lives for 71 Divya Yugas. See, Brahma lives for 1,000 Divya Yugas, and there are 14 Manus in those 1,000 Divya Yugas. So 14 into 71, you will come to 1,000. So there are 14 Manus, and one Manu is living for 71 Divya Yugas, means one Divya Yuga is 4 Yugas combined, and then multiply into 71. That is the lifespan of one Manu. That is the same lifespan of all these demigods. So they live up to that much.
The lifespan of one Manu is the lifespan of the demigods.
Yes.
But so, then not Brahma. Brahma is a higher level demigod.
Correct. So Brahma is the first, he is the creator of the universe. So he is the first person. Okay.
So where the current Manu would be residing?
So the current Manu, so we are currently in Vaivastha Manu Manvantar, which is the 7th Manvantar. The current time is the 7th Manvantar. And 6 Manvantars, they have already passed. And in terms of Brahma's calculation, Brahma is currently in his 51st year, first day, first month of first year. This is first day, first month. So the first day of the month of the first year of Brahma's 51st year. Okay. This is the exact current time that we are in right now.
correct. And where would this
50
Manu be
years,
residing?
50 years of Brahmaji already passed away.
Already
So
passed.
so this is the first day of his first year of his 51st running year.
Right. And half of the day has passed.
Half of the day.
Because 14 Manus, na? 14 Manus in one day.
Yeah, correct.
So this is the 7th Manu.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where this Manu would be residing, where is he supposed to be? On planet Earth?
Yeah, so see, they are residing actually we cannot say Earth, because ultimately, according to the Bhagavatam, there is the Bhumandala, and we have the Jambudipa in the center.
Right.
And then we have Mount Meru, and then the Jambudipa is also surrounded. So it has got, like, if I remember rightly, 9 islands and 9 oceans. Okay, that entire Bhumandal disk. And in the center island is actually the Jambudipa. And so I believe somewhere in Jambudipa, or I don't recollect that, but it is, I think, described.
Okay. And
But
is
it is not, he's not in Earth. So see, this Earth is a subset of that Jambudipa, because Jambudipa
Right.
is surrounded by islands, 9 islands. So our Earth globe is actually one of the island, like that.
okay.
Jambudipa, there is the Bharatvarsha, and then Bharatvarsha, there is the Bharat Khanda, like that.
Correct. So that is a Vedic cosmology. It comes in that, right?
Yeah. So it's a subtle cosmology, you can say. It cannot be perceived with the gross material eyes.
Right. And is Lord Shiva also coming in the category of having to die and then taking a new body?
Okay. So I'm coming to that. Now, see, our Acharya Srila Rupa Goswami in his Laghu Bhagavatamrit, he does mention this point, and he quotes from the Upanishad also and from the Puranas, that along with the demigods, Lord Shiva also dies. And he also takes birth. So Rupa Goswami states that Shiva also is in 2 categories. In one, he is actually, Lord Shiva is in 3 categories, you can say, like that. So Lord Shiva he has his Vishnu form also. When I mention about Vishnu form, it means that he's displaying 60 qualities. That's called as Sadashiv. And he's residing in Vaikuntha. He has his own planet. It's called Ishana. So that is Sadashiv. So he is a Vishnu form, and he is displaying 60 qualities. Then there is another category of Shiva, which is 55. So the Brahma Samhita describes the Lord Shiva that when you churn milk, it gets transformed into yogurt. So when Sadashiv takes the role of the mode of ignorance in the material world, he becomes Shambhu. So that Shambhu is Shiv Tattva, which manifests 55 qualities. And then Rupa Goswami states that because there is a mention of dying and taking birth, so he says that Shiva also is so a Jiva can also take the role of position of Lord Shiva, because only Jivas can die. So all these different demigods, they are all Jivas. So they all die, and they transfer their position and all that. But in terms of Lord Shiva, so Shiv Tattva, there is a Shiv Tattva, there is Sadashiv, the Vishnu Tattva, and there is a Jiva who can also take the role of Shiva. Okay. So so this is the position of Shiva. Now Jiva. So Jiva can only manifest 50 qualities, like Brahma and the demigods. We are all in that category. So this has to be established and understood very thoroughly. Right? Now, what is the position of Durga, the Adi Shakti? People also think that she is the one who is the creator, destroyer, and maintainer, and she is the one from whom everything originates. But according to Vaishnava philosophy, she is the potency of the Lord, the female potency of the Lord, the energy of the Lord, energy of the energetic. So the Durga that we see in the material world, so it is also stated that she is the shadow of the Chit potency. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that she is the shadow of the Chit potency of the Lord. So Chit potency is basically the potency of internal potency of Mahavishnu, and that is Rama Devi. And so the shadow of that Chit potency is Durga in the material world. Now, of course, we have not spoken about the expansions of Krishna from Goloka. So Krishna first expands into Balram, Balram expands into Chaturvya, the first Chaturvya, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh. And then this is all happening in Golok Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. And then those Chaturvyas again expand themselves in Vaikuntha in the form of Dvitiya Chaturvya, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh. And from that second Sankarshan comes the Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Shirodakshai Vishnu. So these are all technical terms. We won't go into the detail because the audience can get confused. They'll not be able to digest these things. But in layman language, in simple words, Krishna is the only Bhagwan, or the form of the Lord, which manifests the maximum qualities. Right? So these qualities are not manifested by any of the other, and this is a Shastric evidence. It is not biased. So what are these 4 additional qualities that Krishna is manifesting? Prem Madhurya, Leela Madhurya, Roop Madhurya, and Venu Madhurya. So all the Prem Madhurya, the loving relationship that Krishna is exchanging with the devotees, they are the topmost, they are the most intimate. Then Roop Madhurya, the form of Krishna is so attractive that Lakshmi herself, she wants to leave Lord Vishnu and run behind Krishna. So she is the most chaste woman, but she forgets Vishnu when Krishna is performing the Ras Leela, and she runs behind Krishna. She wants to participate in the pastimes of the Lord, and she wants to become a gopi also.
That will only increase the chastity, right?
Exactly. I mean, it increases, right? Yeah. But she cannot attain the position of gopis. She has to do some austerities. She has to give up her man as being in Aishwarya Bhav. So Lakshmi herself is hankering to take Krishna's association, right? And then it is also said that Vishnu himself is very eager to see Krishna, right? So from this, we can clearly understand that Krishna's position is very special. This thing does not happen with any other form of the God. Okay, that the Roop Madhurya. So Krishna's beauty attracts, that's why he's called all attractive, because no one can match him in that area. So they do not run after Shiva, they do not run after Vishnu, they do not run after Rama and Narasimha, right? They only run after Krishna. And Vishnu himself is also eager to see Krishna. That's why there is a pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam where Vishnu is stealing the sons of the Brahmana in Dwarka. And then finally Krishna takes Arjuna to Vishnu Loka, Mahavaikuntha Loka, in Mahavishnu's abode, right? The Mahavishnu is also anchoring to see Krishna. So see, Roop Madhurya, then Venu Madhurya. Obviously, we know that no one plays flute. That Venu Madhurya pastime is only applicable to Krishna's form. And then we have the Leela Madhurya, which the pastime that Krishna is displaying in this world is super excellent, supramundane. No other form of the Lord is ever performing pastimes like this. So Krishna's pastimes are always very attractive compared to any other form of God. So these are the 4 characteristics, qualities in terms of rasa. But what is the uniqueness about Krishna's nature also? And one of the most unique thing is that Krishna is the only one who can actually bestow liberation to demons. No other form of the Lord can bestow liberation to demons. So I'm talking about demons. So Lord Shiva can also bestow liberation to his followers, to his devotees, but not to demons. First of all, most of the demons are followers of Lord Shiva. But then it is rightly stated that Mare Krishna Rakhe ke and Rakhe Krishna Mare ke. If Krishna, Vishnu decides to kill someone, no one can protect. And that is a evidence in the scripture. If Vishnu wants to kill someone, unless the person will transform, then only he will be protected by Vishnu. Else he will be destroyed. No one can stop that. Right? And you see the followers of Lord Vishnu and Krishna, they are all Vaishnavas and they are beneficial for the entire human race. Whereas the followers of other demigods, they are like, more in the mode of passion, ignorance, and they create so much chaos, disturbance. So they are like not in control of themselves. Whereas Vaishnavas, they are of very high character and values. Then who is maintaining? Krishna is the only one who is actually maintaining, right? They are creating and destroying. So in that sense also, Krishna is supreme. But the most unique characteristic of Krishna is that even Lord Ram and Narasimha, they cannot bestow liberation to demons. Only Krishna. See, all these forms, they are all eternal forms. So there is no question of saying that pehle kaun aaya, murgi aayi, anda aaya. Okay. So that cannot be resolved. But these are all eternal forms. It's just that some forms of the Lord, one of the forms out of so many is manifesting the maximum qualities, and others are manifesting less qualities. So that form which is manifesting the maximum qualities, that is Krishna. Right? And another interesting thing is, Krishna does not appear in every Dwapar Yuga. He appears once in a day of Brahma. So we have already discussed about the time duration, and in one day there are 14 Manvantars. So Krishna only appears in the 7th Manvantar, in the Vaivastha Manvantar, in the 28th cycle of the Divya Yuga, the 28th Divya Yuga cycle. So there are 1000 Divya Yugas, so 71 Divya Yugas in one Manvantar. Total in Brahma's lifespan, there are 1000 Divya Yugas. So Krishna appears in that 28th Divya Yuga of that particular Manvantar. You had a question?
Yeah. So in every day of Brahma, Krishna appears once only, and that is always in the 7th Manvantar only. It is always like that, or it's his wish?
Yeah, it is like that. Generally, it is the 7th Manvantar. Okay. See, because what I understand is that so you have got this 14 Manvantars, right? And generally, you have, after Krishna's appearance as a Leela avatar, then you have, so there are different categories of avatars. And Krishna he's the Yuga avatar, he's also the Leela avatar, right? So when he descends, then the Yuga avatar and the Leela avatar becomes one. Otherwise, we have Yuga avatars which are separate from the Leela avatars. Right? For example, we know that the Yuga avatars in Satyug is white in complexion. In Treta Yuga, it is red in complexion. In Dwapar, it is black in complexion. And then in Kali Yuga, it is different colors. Sometimes it can be green, sometimes it can be yellow, sometimes it can be red, it can be black also. So Acharyas quote different Puranas to say that the complexion can be changed. It is not necessary, but these are the Yuga avatars. They have different complexions and they have different form. Okay, and the Leela avatars. Which are the Leela avatars? So in the Satyuga, we know that Narasimha appeared, then Vara appeared, Vaman appeared, and then Treta Yuga Lord Ram appeared. Now see, it is also described by the Acharyas, quoting Srimad Bhagavatam as a evidence, and saying that Narasimha did not appear in this particular cycle. When did Narasimha appear? He appears in Chakshusa Manvantar, the 6th Manvantar. He does not appear in 7th Manvantar. Right? And then there is the appearance of Vara. So Vara appears twice in Swayambhu Manvantar, which is first, and again he appears in Chakshusa Manvantar 2 times. Matsya appears 14 times, each and every Manvantar, because there is a dissolution there is a destruction, temporary destruction at the end of every Manvantar. So Matsya Avatar appears every 14 times. And the Lord Ramchandra is not, he did not appear in this particular Treta Yuga. He appeared in the 25th cycle of, so this is the 28th cycle of Divya Yuga. Lord Ramchandra appeared in the 25th cycle of Divya Yuga. So what is the evidence? The evidence is Srimad Bhagavatam. So from the description, the way the genealogy of the kings have been described, from there it is very clear. Because see, Hiranyakashipu, he was the son of Diti, right? Kashyap Muni and Diti. And they appeared during Chakshusha Manvantar's time. So it is not possible that Narasimha appeared in this particular Manvantar, because there is a lot of time gap. So when Vara appeared, he appeared, Swayambhuva Manu was there. So later on, the same Vara appeared during Chakshusha Manu's time. So like that, I mean, you know, the different avatars are appearing differently. But it is also possible that they can, out of their own will, they can appear in whichever time frame they want. It's not necessarily we can bind the Lord. It is, see, it is mentioned in some scriptures, but some other scriptures, they also say that Narasimha is also present in Janaloka, and he's also present in his Vaibhav Vilas form in different lokas, in expansions. So it may be possible that Narasimha would have appeared now also, but it is just not described in the Bhagavatam or other scripture. And then there are other scriptures that talk about the appearance of, like for example, Vishnu Dharmottar Purana. It talks about the appearance of these avatars. So it is possible that you know, they can choose their own time period to appear. Yeah. So Krishna kills the demons and he will liberate them. That is a special quality of Krishna. And you can see from the example of Lord Narasimha, Lord Rama, when they killed Hiranyakashipu and Ravan Kumbhakarna, Ravan was killed by Ram. So they did not get moksha, they did not get liberation. They got opulence, good opulence, because they got killed by the Lord, but they could not get liberation. But only when Krishna killed Shishupal, because Shishupal came like same Ravan and Hiranyakashipu came in the form of Shishupal. Then he was killed by Krishna, then he attained liberation. So there is a special quality of attractiveness, special Shakti with Krishna that can bestow liberation to demons. That is only in Krishna.
So then, when it comes to worshipping all demigods and worshipping Krishna, then obviously it is not at the same level. So then, if the demigods are worshipped, is it considered? I mean, is it not auspicious to worship the demigods?
So Akela Ishvara Krishna are Sababhritya. It is mentioned that Akela Ishvara Krishna, which means Krishna alone is the Ishvara, and are Sababhritya, which means all others are servant of Krishna. Now, in a family also, you have the supreme, like you have the father in the center, or you have the grandfather, right? So the father also serves the grandfather, and the grandchildren also serve the grandfather. He is the authority. He's like, because he's the most respected person in the family. So he's like the topmost. If you worship your grandfather, the father has to be, if there is a true loving relationship, the father will naturally be pleased. You will not say that you bypass your grandfather and you worship me. That is ego. Then it means that the father wants to take the position of grandfather. He is jealous, right? So similarly, all the demigods, they understand their position with respect to Krishna's position, and they acknowledge that. So they consider themselves to be servant of the Lord. And that's why they are actually happy when we are directly serving the Lord. And because Krishna also says, see, there are two different things. There is the worship of demigods, and then there is the worship of devotees. The worship of devotees is done in the spirit of acknowledging and understanding the fact that devotees are worshipped because they keep Krishna in the center. Their life and soul is Krishna. Their main objective of worship is Krishna. Whereas demigods, why we call them separate, is because demigods tend to enjoy themselves. Sometimes they try to take the role and position of Krishna. So this is what we saw in the time when Indra got very upset with Krishna, and then he tried to destroy the citizens of Braj and Krishna's own citizens, his own family members. And then he tried to kill Krishna also. And then later on, after the Govardhan Leela, he also tried to again fight with Krishna. And then Brahmaji also got bewildered somehow. So he also stole all the cowherd boys and the cows from Krishna when Krishna was playing. So temporarily these demigods, they get bewildered because of their passionate desire. Now Brahma is generally a pure devotee, so it's arranged by the Lord. But Indra and others, they are mixed devotees, so they get bewildered because of their own passion. So they go against the Lord. Whereas devotees, by definition, they never go against the Lord. In fact, you go to devotee, you worship the devotees, they will say that you worship Krishna. That will give us more happiness. So by nature, by this relationship, we can understand that it is Krishna alone who has to be worshipped. It's the supreme, because he's the Supreme Father. Like, in the cabinet also, you have the Prime Minister, who is the supreme authority for the entire country. And if you have a direct connection with the Prime Minister, you don't have to bother about the Defense Minister, the Finance Minister, the Chief Minister. You just approach the Prime Minister. That's it. So similarly, all these positions have been designated to the demigods by the power of attorney of the Supreme Lord. By his will, they are enjoying that position and role. So they should not forget that. So that's how it does not make sense to say that, oh, well, we can worship anyone. It is same as worshipping Krishna. No, it is not the same. You don't worship your brother as your father. There's a difference, You treat your brother in a different way, you treat your father in a different way. You give more respect to your father. You take more care of your father. You worship your father. You don't worship your brother.
Right.
So like that. So now another important point to understand is that there cannot be multiple supreme gods. So if someone will say that, well, why Krishna only supreme, which we have already established, if you see, if one wants to establish the supremacy of a particular god, they have to quote Shastra, and it should be evident from the Leelas of the Lord that why he is to be considered as supreme. So they can quote Shastra and they can establish why he is the supreme, right? But the thing is, there is only one absolute truth. There is only one supreme being. There cannot be multiple supreme beings. Why there should be multiple supreme beings? Because that one supreme being is infinite in everything. So when you talk about, okay, everyone is like a supreme being, that means you are saying that, well, each of them is lacking something. That's why you require multiple supremes, right? Otherwise, if there is only one person, if he is infinite in everything, why he has to need multiple support? So it does not make sense. The supreme entity is only one. And if you call him infinite, it means everything is included in him. Now, with Krishna, there are also Vishnu forms, right? But these are just the forms of the Lord in order to reciprocate with the desire of the living entities, different forms. It's not that Krishna needs to expand himself in multiple forms, or Krishna has to be in multiple form. No, it is just because there are living entities, infinite living entities, and they have infinite concepts to approach the Lord. So in order to fulfill that desire, Krishna will expand himself into, and he will empower certain jivas to become demigods, and they will all reciprocate with the living entities. So it is not something like, okay, the prime minister is like limited, and he is not able to do certain tasks. He has limited time, he has limited energy. It is not like that. The concept of the cabinet ministry is that because a single person cannot handle anything. That is in the material world, but in the spiritual context, we cannot say that. In fact, the spiritual entity is infinite in everything. He can manage everything on his own. That's why the scriptures also say that before me nothing existed, and after me also nothing will exist. So Krishna says like that.
But he also says that there was never a time when you and I did not exist, and there shall never be a time when we shall cease to exist.
Correct. So these are, that's why I said that all these forms, Vishnu forms, the Purusha avatars, the Lord Shiva form, these are all eternal forms of the Lord. That's why we cannot say who came first. But it is just that there is also Sarva Karana Karanam. It is also said in the scriptures that is one person from whom everything manifested. So Govindam Adi Purusham Sarva Karana Karanam. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. And then it is also mentioned in the Bhagavatam, after describing all the different forms, avatars of the Lord, Ete Chamsha Kala Pumsha Krishnas tu Bhagwan Swayam. So there is a very clear distinguishing factor between all the avatars and then designating the position of Krishna. That all these forms, they are Amsha, they are part and parcel of the Supreme. But Krishna, you are that Supreme Bhagwan. Krishnas tu Bhagwan Swayam. So this is the Paribhas Sutra of the entire Bhagavatam.
Right.
Paribhas Sutra is a sutra which pervades the entire foundation of the scripture. You have to refute that Paribhas Sutra in order to establish something else. So this is repeatedly seen throughout the Bhagavatam, how Krishna's position is established to be supreme. In fact, it is very interesting. Our acharyas, they have also quoted from the Vishnu. See, this description of Krishna giving liberation only to demons, that is recorded by, and it is narrated by Parasar Muni. And this description is given in the Vishnu Puran. It is not even given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Parasar Muni is speaking and he is describing the extraordinary qualities of Krishna, and he is stunned by that. So while glorifying the other forms of the other avatars, he comes to the description of Krishna's form, and then he becomes stunned, and he very clearly states that no other avatar has this kind of quality. That is there in the Vishnu Puran. So he is declaring that. But because it's Vishnu Puran, so most of the sections, they are glorifying Lord Vishnu as the Supreme. Indirectly, he has concluded that, while comparing all the avatars. Another point, interesting point, it is also made by our acharyas, that when Krishna was in Vrindavan, all the plant, trees and creepers, they were constantly crying, even in the presence of Krishna. They were in ecstasy, seeing the Lord. But in case of Lord Ramchandra, it only happened when he left Ayodhya and went to Vanvas, to the forest. So only that time, these plants and creepers and trees, they started crying. But for Krishna, it was a regular daily affair, everyday affair.
On this point, there has been latest a new controversy where is very senior saint who is deriding ISKCON for ISKCON preachers saying that Krishna is superior to Lord Ram. And incidentally, that saint is such a prominent personality that it was his Supreme Court had used his knowledge and his counsel to prove that Ayodhya was indeed the birthplace of Lord Rama, and now we have got the official ruling from Supreme Court for the Ram temple. But the thing is that he is deriding ISKCON. This is very latest. I think it's the last 1 week only. It's come to the news that why ISKCON tries to prove again that Rama has got 5 qualities shorter than Krishna. Krishna is some Pun Kala and Rama is because he's a blind saint, very famous. He's the also the
I know that.
I think, yeah, and so he's saying this is not correct, and then he gives a big lecture, and then he's saying ISKCON money is going abroad, all these things. Though he's extremely revered even by ISKCON devotees, but this is what he's saying about ISKCON because ISKCON has a different point of view when it comes to Ram and Krishna.
No, but recently he did. He had a meeting with Amog Leela Prabhu, and he clarified. He also glorified Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON. So I think over a period of time he did understand. But I'm not sure if he accepts till now whether Krishna is supreme. But it is evident from the scriptures. It is not
But
something.
it's the scriptures. Yeah, it is not a point of view of ISKCON. It is scriptures. It is the great.
And it is not only ISKCON. Basically, ISKCON is a branch of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, and that Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. So that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, and everyone in that Gaudiya Sampradaya, they accept Krishna as supreme. Another example is the Vallabhacharya Sampradaya. They are also followers of Krishna. They also establish that Krishna is the Supreme Personality because their authority is also Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the Nimbarika followers also, for them also Krishna is the Supreme. It's only the Madhva followers and Ramanuja followers. They consider Vishnu or Ram as Supreme. But it has to be evident from the scriptures. And these details are all provided by the Acharyas. I mean, we can clearly see that. It is true that Hiranyakashipu did not get liberation. And our Acharyas, they clearly point this out, that it was not Jay and Vijay every time who took the roles of these 3 personalities. It was not Jay and Vijay every time. Jay and Vijay only came once. But in other kalpas, these are the asuras, the jivas, who are ignorant, who are passionate, who are ignorant. They are taking the role of asuras and they are killed by the Lord. So Jay and Vijay case is not applicable for every kalpa. So that's how they establish the supremacy of Krishna, his mercy. And we can also see that there is a proper logical sequence in how they are appearing. So first Lord Ramchandra and then finally Krishna is appearing. So that way the Lord is displaying more qualities. Generally, the best is yet to come. We say like that. The best is at the end. So in that sense also, you will see that Krishna, because the more people degraded, the more they require mercy. And that is manifested by the greatest, the most maximum quality of the Lord. So, it's all evident in the scripture. We don't even have to, argue about it. And then you see this Raslila pastimes of the Lord. See, Lord Ramchandra, what kind of rasa you can reach with Lord Ramchandra? It is only Dasya. But the intimacy with Krishna is much higher. Goes to up to completely Madhurya Ras. So that intimacy itself speaks everything. You get so much intimate with the Lord, then you can clearly understand that that's why Leela Madhurya, Prem Madhurya is all there in Krishna only. Lord Ramchandra also does not have that. And when Lord Ramchandra, being a avatar of the Lord, he does not have any issue, Krishna being supreme, then why we are arguing about that? So the avatars, they are all hankering to see Krishna. They do not have any ego like that because they are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. They all know that. So Krishna is that independent Supreme Personality. That is also, there are some verses in the Bhagavatam which clearly distinguishes Krishna's position from others. So there are certain words which are used in the scriptures that clearly indicate that only Krishna is that supreme independent controller. So yeah, and then Brahma, in Brahma's prayers to Krishna also. So he says that Krishna, your form is most difficult to understand. So he is able to understand Vasudev's position, which means not Vasudev is father, but Vasudev, one of the Vishnu Tattvas, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyam, Anirudh. But he's unable. So see, another reasoning that the acharyas give is that Narayan is Nar Ayana. Basically, the meaning that he is the shelter of the jivas. Nar means jivas and Ayana means shelter. So Lord Narayan, basically, which means Mahavishnu, appears in order to give shelter to the jivas in the material world. But the Bhagavatam very clearly states that Krishna only appears for his devotees. He does not appear like that. So that's why Krishna's position is much more greater than Mahavishnu's position also.
Correct.
And in another context, our acharyas also say that when Markandeya Rishi, when he saw the dissolution, right? If you remember the pastime where he wanted to see the annihilation, and that's how the Lord manifested in the form of Matsya Avatar, right? And he also saw the form of baby, the baby form of the Lord. So at the end of annihilation, so that time he was asked, "Whom did you see?" And so this is a question by Vajranav. So Vajranav is actually the son of Anirudh. So he said, "I saw your father." Okay, he did not say, "I saw your grandfather, great grandfather," because Krishna is the great grandfather of Vajranav, and Anirudh is the father of Vajranav. So the position of great grandfather is much greater than the position of the father. So that is Anirudh. So that Anirudh is actually Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So the acharyas, they give this argument that if he had said that I saw your great grandfather Krishna, then it would have made sense that okay, Krishna's position is like he's secondary to the form of Narayan or to the Purusha avatars. But because he said that I saw your father Aniruddha, and Anirudh, so see, we have Vasudev Sankarshana. So Sankarshan then manifests in the form of Mahavishnu, right? So Sankarshan is Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is Sankarshan. And then, so Vasudev Sankarshan, Pradyumna Aniruddha. So Sankarshan manifesting in the form of Mahavishnu. Pradyumna is manifesting in the form of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And Anirudh is manifesting in the form of Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So Markandeya Rishi saw that Anirudh form. He saw that Kshirodakshai Vishnu form at the end of the annihilation. So he says that he was your father to Vajranav. Okay, so this is how they also conclude that how Krishna is actually supreme amongst all of them. Yeah, so many reasonings are there why the Lord is considered to be the supreme. Why Krishna? Because only reason is he is displaying maximum qualities.
Right. Thank you, Prateekji, for this wonderful session.
One more point. I think one last important point, if I can just address it. So see, when Krishna did his last lila, so that time Lord Shiva, Brahma, Lakshmi all desired to enter the lila. So Lord Shiva even wanted to become a gopi in that lila. So if Krishna's lilas were immoral, then all these great personalities, Sukdev Goswami is speaking about that Ras Lila, who is the most chaste, the excellent brahmachari. And similarly, Bhishma Pitama glorifies the activity of Krishna in the Ras Lila. So all these personalities, great personalities who have been chaste, who have been fixed in their vows, determined brahmacharya, they are glorifying Krishna's Ras Lila pastime. It means that it is certainly transcendental. It is supramundane, right? So this is what I would like to share.
Absolutely. ठीक ठीक है प्रतीक जी, thank you so much for today's wonderful lecture. I have another session to start now actually, so I will require. I'm getting constant calls on my mobile.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Rajiv ji, for your time and for addressing this issue, giving me the opportunity to address the issue.
Thank you.
Hopefully
Thank you.
we'll come up with a newer topic next time.
Yes, yes. I have one in mind. I'll speak to you later on about it.
Sure, sure. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.